Let's talk about something that feels embarrassing to admit out loud, but hurts deeply inside. You miss someone who, if you're honest with yourself, didn't actually give you that much. They weren't emotionally present all the time. They didn't communicate clearly. They didn't fight for the relationship the way you did, and yet they are the one person you can't stop thinking about. This is the strange pain that confuses so many people. You sit with yourself and wonder, why am I missing someone who made me feel lonely, even when we were together? Why do I feel this empty space now, when that space already existed back then? This confusion creates guilt, self-blame, and shame. You start questioning your self-respect. You tell yourself you should be over them by now. You tell yourself they weren't even that good to you. But your emotions don't listen to logic. The reason this pain feels so intense is because the human heart doesn't measure love by how much it receives. It measures love by how much it hopes. And with an avoidant partner, hope becomes the strongest emotional bond. You didn't fall in love with consistency. You fell in love with potential. You fell in love with the small moments when they opened up just enough to make you believe that one day things would be different. Your mind keeps replaying those rare good moments. That one deep conversation. That one time they showed vulnerability. That one time they chose you. Those moments were few, but they were powerful because they felt earned. You worked for them. You waited for them, you adjusted yourself for them, and anything we work hard for automatically feels more valuable in our mind. This is why missing an avoidant ex feels different from missing anyone else. When someone gives you love freely and consistently, your system feels safe. But when love is inconsistent, your system stays alert. It stays emotionally activated. Even after the relationship ends, your nervous system doesn't understand that it's over. It's still waiting for the next emotional reward that never comes. You are not missing the person as they truly were. You are missing the version of them you were trying to reach. The emotionally available version you kept believing was hidden underneath their distance. And every time you tried harder, loved deeper, or stayed quieter to avoid pushing them away, your attachment grew stronger. This pain also comes from invalidation, because when someone doesn't give you much but you still feel deeply attached, you feel foolish, you feel weak, you feel like your emotions don't make sense. And that makes the pain heavier, because now you're not just grieving them, you're judging yourself for grieving them. But here's what you need to understand. Missing someone who didn't give you much doesn't mean you wanted less. It means you were starving for emotional connection. When you're emotionally hungry, even crumbs feel meaningful. And once your system gets used to surviving on crumbs, it starts craving the person who controlled the supply. That's why their absence hurts more than their presence ever did. Because now there is no hope left to chase, no moment to wait for, no emotional door half open. And your mind struggles with that loss, because hope was the glue that kept you attached. This is not about weakness, this is about conditioning. You were conditioned to associate love with longing, effort, and emotional uncertainty. And until you understand that, you'll keep missing someone not because they were right for you, but because your nervous system hasn't learned what safety feels like yet, and it's still reaching for what feels familiar. Even if familiar was painful, even if familiar kept you waiting, even if familiar taught you to doubt your own worth, even if familiar made you believe that love is something you have to earn, instead of something you're allowed to receive naturally, without shrinking, without chasing, without losing yourself in the process. If you've ever asked yourself why you feel so intensely attached to someone who made you feel uncertain, anxious, and emotionally unsteady, this is where the answer begins to unfold. Avoidant love doesn't feel calm, and that's exactly why it feels powerful. The emotional chaos creates a chemical bond in your brain that can be mistaken for deep connection, even when real intimacy was missing. Avoidant partners operate in a pattern of closeness and distance. One moment they are warm, attentive, and emotionally available, and the next moment they pull away without explanation. This inconsistency triggers your brain's reward system. When something is unpredictable, the brain releases more dopamine in anticipation of the next reward. The less predictable the reward, the stronger the craving becomes. That's the same mechanism behind addictions, and it's why avoidant love feels intoxicating. Real love is steady. It doesn't make your heart race with fear. It doesn't leave you constantly questioning your worth or replaying conversations in your head. Healthy love regulates your nervous system. Avoidant love dysregulates it. But when your system is constantly activated, your body starts interpreting intensity as importance. You don't feel calm, so you assume you must be deeply in love. This is where many people get trapped. They confuse emotional highs and lows with passion. They believe the anxiety they feel means they care more. In reality, the anxiety exists because your emotional needs are not being met. You're constantly waiting, hoping, adjusting, and overthinking, and that mental effort becomes a form of attachment. Every time the avoidant partner pulls away, your brain enters a state of emotional hunger. When they finally return, even briefly, it feels like relief. That relief becomes addictive. You start chasing the feeling of being chosen again, not realizing that what you're craving is not the person, but the emotional release from the tension they created. This cycle slowly rewires your perception of love. Peace starts to feel boring, consistency starts to feel suspicious, and chaos starts to feel familiar. You don't just miss them, you miss the emotional stimulation they provided. The constant thinking, the guessing, the hoping gave your mind something to do. When the relationship ends, that stimulation disappears and the silence feels unbearable. Avoidant love also keeps you emotionally invested because it never fully resolves. There's always something left unsaid, always a feeling left unexplained, always a question without an answer. The brain hates open loops. It wants closure. And when closure doesn't come, the mind keeps returning to the source, trying to complete the story. This is why moving on feels harder than it should, not because the relationship was deep, but because it was incomplete. You weren't bonded through shared safety, you were bonded through emotional tension, and tension creates attachment faster than comfort ever could. The danger of this kind of attachment is that it trains you to tolerate less while wanting more. You start believing that love requires struggle, that connection requires patience with emotional distance, that if you just try a little harder, you'll finally earn the closeness you crave. But real love doesn't need to be earned through suffering. It doesn't come with emotional guessing games. It doesn't keep you in a constant state of self-doubt. The addiction you feel isn't love. It's your nervous system responding to inconsistency. And until you understand that difference, your mind will keep pulling you back toward what felt intense, even if that intensity cost you peace, clarity, and emotional safety. Even if it kept you stuck in cycles of longing instead of growth, even if it taught you to equate desire with deprivation and connection with uncertainty. There is a specific kind of pain that comes from emotional absence, and it is often more powerful than direct rejection. When someone openly says they don't want you, the mind can eventually accept it. But when someone stays close while remaining emotionally unavailable, the confusion keeps you trapped. Avoidant partners rarely leave in a clean, honest way. They fade. They disconnect quietly. They withdraw without giving you a clear explanation, and that absence becomes louder than any argument ever could. Your mind is not designed to sit peacefully with unanswered questions. It wants meaning. It wants clarity. It wants to understand what went wrong so it can protect you from future pain. When an avoidant ex disappears emotionally, your brain goes into problem-solving mode. You replay moments, you analyze tone changes, you search for the exact second when things shifted, hoping that if you find the answer, the pain will finally stop. But emotional absence doesn't give answers. It gives silence, and silence forces you to create your own explanations. Most of the time, those explanations turn inward. You assume you said something wrong. You believe you were too emotional, too needy, too intense. You take responsibility for someone else's inability to show up emotionally, and that belief becomes a heavy emotional burden you carry long after the relationship ends. Unanswered questions keep emotional attachment alive because they prevent closure. Closure is not about hearing the perfect apology or explanation. Closure is about emotional resolution, and resolution requires two emotionally present people. With an avoidant ex, that presence was missing, so the story never feels complete. Your mind keeps returning to them, not out of love, but out of a need to finish what was emotionally left open. This is why emotional absence can feel more haunting than active mistreatment. When someone hurts you openly, you can point to the wound. When someone is emotionally absent, the wound is invisible, but it spreads quietly. You don't just grieve the person, you grieve the conversations that never happened, the emotions that were never acknowledged, the closeness that was always just out of reach. The avoidant pattern creates an illusion of depth. Because they don't fully express themselves, you project meaning onto their silence. You imagine feelings they never confirmed. You hold on to small gestures and read them as signs of hidden love. Emotional absence leaves space, and the human mind fills that space with hope, fantasy, and imagined potential. This is especially powerful when the relationship ended without a clear ending. No final conversation, no real goodbye, just distance. And distance leaves the door open emotionally, even when the relationship is over physically. Part of you keeps waiting for the explanation that never came, for the message that never arrives, for the clarity that was always delayed. Your attachment isn't to the person as they were, it's to the questions they left behind. And every unanswered question becomes a thread tying you back to them. The more you think, the tighter the knot becomes. The mind believes that if it can just understand, it can finally let go. But the truth is painful and freeing at the same time. The answers you're looking for don't exist in a form that will satisfy you. Avoidant behavior is not caused by something you failed to do. It comes from their discomfort with emotional closeness, vulnerability, and dependence. And no amount of analyzing your own actions will change that reality. Healing begins when you stop trying to get answers from someone who avoided giving them in the first place. Emotional absence cannot be solved with more thinking. It can only be healed by recognizing that silence was the answer, distance was the message, and the lack of emotional engagement was the clarity you were waiting for. Even if it didn't come in the words you wanted, even if it arrived through withdrawal instead of explanation, even if accepting it means letting go of the hope that understanding them would finally ease the ache they left behind. There is a moment many people remember clearly from their relationship with an avoidant partner, and it's not a moment of peace or safety. It's a moment of anxiety, waiting for a reply, reading a message again and again, wondering if their tone has changed, feeling your chest tighten when they pull back without warning. And strangely, those moments feel deeply connected to them, even though they are filled with stress. This is where the brain begins to blur a dangerous line. When your emotional needs are inconsistently met, your nervous system stays on high alert. You are constantly scanning for signs of closeness or distance. That constant alertness creates anxiety. And over time, your brain starts associating that anxiety with emotional bonding. Your brain is not asking, "Is this healthy?" It's asking, "Is this familiar?" And if you spent weeks or months emotionally chasing someone, that chase becomes the definition of connection in your mind. Calm feels unfamiliar. Silence feels threatening. Stability feels empty. Anxiety feels like attachment. Every time you felt unsure about where you stood with them, your brain released stress hormones like cortisol. Then, when they suddenly showed warmth or affection, your brain released dopamine and relief chemicals. That emotional swing creates a powerful imprint. The relief feels so intense that it convinces you something meaningful just happened. In reality, nothing changed. The cycle just reset. This is why you may think about them most when you feel anxious, lonely, or emotionally unsettled. Your brain believes they are the source of relief, even though they were also the source of the anxiety. It's not love pulling you back. It's your nervous system craving regulation. An avoidant partner often keeps you emotionally guessing. That guessing forces your mind to stay focused on them. When someone is clear, present, and emotionally available, your mind can relax. But when someone is unpredictable, your mind stays busy trying to figure them out. That mental occupation gets misinterpreted as emotional closeness. You might say things like, "I've never felt this strongly about anyone," or "No one else affects me like they did." What you're actually describing is not depth of love, but depth of emotional activation. Your system was constantly triggered, and triggers feel intense. This confusion becomes even stronger after the breakup. When they are gone, the anxiety remains. Your brain looks for the fastest way to calm itself, and it reaches for the person it associates with emotional relief, forgetting that the relief only came after distress. So you replay memories, you imagine conversations, you think about reaching out, not because it would bring peace, but because your system is addicted to the emotional pattern. This is also why healthy people might feel boring to you after an avoidant relationship. They don't trigger the same anxiety. They don't make you question your worth. They don't create emotional highs and lows. And without that stimulation, your brain thinks something is missing. But what's missing is chaos, not connection. Real connection does not require constant emotional stress. It does not keep your body tense. It does not make you doubt yourself. When anxiety fades, clarity appears. And clarity can feel uncomfortable if you're used to confusion. Understanding this changes everything. It allows you to stop romanticizing the pain. It allows you to see that what felt like chemistry was actually nervous system dysregulation. And once you recognize that, the spell begins to weaken, because your brain can finally separate emotional intensity from emotional safety, connection from conditioning, longing from love, and attachment from the anxious patterns that kept you emotionally tied to someone who never truly met you where you were emotionally, even when you were trying your hardest to stay connected, even when you believed the anxiety meant something special instead of something unresolved within your own nervous system. One of the hardest truths to accept after an avoidant relationship is that closure is the one thing you will keep waiting for, but never truly receive from them. Not because you didn't deserve it, and not because you failed to communicate your feelings clearly, but because emotional closure requires emotional availability, and that was the very thing your avoidant ex struggled with the most. Many people believe closure comes from a final conversation. They imagine that one honest talk where everything is explained, emotions are acknowledged, and both people walk away understanding what happened. With an avoidant ex, that conversation either never happens or leaves you more confused than before. They may minimize the relationship, change the story, shut down emotionally, or act like everything ended without meaning. And instead of feeling relief, you walk away with more questions than answers. This creates a painful cycle. You think if you could just explain yourself better, if you could just get them to open up, if you could just hear them admit that the connection mattered, then you could finally move on. So you stay emotionally attached, not to the relationship, but to the possibility of understanding. Closure becomes a goal, and your ex becomes the gatekeeper of your peace. Avoidant individuals often protect themselves from emotional discomfort by distancing, intellectualizing, or downplaying feelings. When confronted with emotional conversations, they may appear cold, defensive, or indifferent. This response can feel deeply invalidating, especially if you invested emotionally and showed vulnerability. You start questioning your reality. You wonder if you imagined the depth. You doubt your own experience. But closure doesn't come from someone agreeing with your version of the story. Closure comes from internal acceptance. And that's something no avoidant partner can give you, because they avoided emotional responsibility while the relationship was active. Another reason closure never comes is because avoidant partners rarely process emotions in real time. They suppress feelings instead of expressing them. That means they often don't fully understand their own emotions, let alone explain them to someone else. When you ask for clarity, you're asking them to access a level of emotional awareness they may not have developed. This leaves you stuck trying to get emotional answers from someone who coped by shutting emotions down. And every attempt pulls you deeper into frustration and self-doubt. You begin believing that if they don't acknowledge the pain, then maybe it wasn't real. But pain does not require validation to exist. Your experience was real because you lived it. The absence of closure can feel like emotional imprisonment. You replay memories. You imagine different endings. You wait for an apology that never comes. And because there was never a clear emotional ending, your mind keeps the connection alive, hoping one day it will make sense. The truth is, the relationship already told you everything you needed to know. The lack of emotional availability was the message. The distance was the explanation. The inconsistency was the answer. But accepting that feels painful because it means letting go of the hope that one day they will finally understand what they lost. Letting go of the need for closure from them is not giving up. It is choosing yourself. It is recognizing that someone who avoided emotional depth during the relationship will avoid it after the relationship too. And the more you wait for them to give you peace, the more power you hand over to someone who was never capable of holding it. Real closure begins when you stop trying to be understood by someone who never truly listened. It begins when you validate your own experience instead of waiting for them to confirm it. And when you stop seeking answers from the person who created the confusion, you finally start freeing yourself from the emotional loop that kept you tied to their silence, their distance, and the unresolved pain that was never meant to be carried this long by you alone. The moment you realize that constantly thinking about your avoidant ex is not a sign of love, but a sign of emotional conditioning, something shifts inside you. You stop asking why you miss them and start asking how you can come back to yourself. Reclaiming your power does not happen by forcing yourself to forget them. It happens by understanding why your mind keeps returning there and gently redirecting it towards safety, clarity, and self-respect. The first step is recognizing that your thoughts are not invitations. Just because they appear does not mean you have to follow them. Your brain learned a pattern where thinking about them felt like doing something productive, like solving a problem. But there is no problem left to solve. The relationship ended. The answers you wanted were already revealed through their behavior. When you interrupt the habit of rumination, you begin breaking the emotional loop. You reclaim your power by regulating your nervous system instead of feeding the anxiety. When your body feels calm, your thoughts naturally slow down. Simple things like grounding your breath, moving your body, and creating predictable routines help your system learn what safety feels like again. The more your body experiences calm without chaos, the less it will crave emotional turbulence. Another powerful shift happens when you stop idealizing the connection and start seeing the reality of the dynamic. Write down how the relationship actually made you feel on a daily basis. Not the highs, but the waiting, the confusion, the self-doubt. This brings your mind out of fantasy and back into truth. You are not letting go of love. You are letting go of imbalance. Reclaiming your power also means rebuilding your identity outside of the relationship. Avoidant dynamics often cause you to shrink yourself emotionally. You become more accommodating, more patient, more careful, until you forget what it feels like to be fully expressed. Returning to your interests, your values, and your voice restores the parts of you that were silenced. Boundaries play a crucial role here. Even if the relationship is over, emotional boundaries still matter. Limiting contact, stopping social media checking, and resisting the urge to seek updates are not acts of punishment. They are acts of self-protection. Every time you choose not to reopen the wound, you reinforce your own strength. You also reclaim your power by redefining love. Love is not something that keeps you anxious. Love is not something that makes you question your worth. Love does not require you to earn basic emotional presence. When you update your definition of love, your attraction shifts naturally. You stop being drawn to emotional distance and start recognizing emotional availability as desirable. There will be moments when memories resurface. That does not mean you are failing. It means your mind is adjusting to a new pattern. Each time you choose clarity over fantasy, presence over rumination, and self-respect over longing, you weaken the emotional attachment a little more. Your power returns when you stop waiting for someone to come back and start showing up for yourself. When your sense of worth no longer depends on being chosen by someone who couldn't choose closeness. When you realize that peace is not boring, it is stable. And stability allows real intimacy to grow. You were never too much. You were simply asking for depth from someone who lived on the surface of their emotions. And the moment you stop trying to convince someone to meet you where you are, you step into a life where your emotional needs are not a burden, but a strength, where your thoughts no longer circle around someone who couldn't stay, and where reclaiming your power means choosing a future that feels grounded, reciprocal, and emotionally safe. As we bring everything together, one truth becomes clear. You were never weak for missing your avoidant ex, and you were never broken for thinking about them for so long. What you experienced was a powerful emotional pattern created by inconsistency, emotional absence, and unresolved attachment. Once you understand that, the confusion starts to dissolve. You now see that what felt like love was often anxiety, what felt like connection was often longing, and what kept you attached was not the person themselves, but the unfinished emotional story. The pain did not come from losing them. It came from losing the hope that one day they would become emotionally available. This awareness is not meant to shame you. It is meant to free you. Because when you stop chasing clarity from someone who avoided depth, you give yourself permission to choose peace instead of emotional chaos. You stop replaying the past and start grounding yourself in the present. Letting go does not happen all at once. It happens in moments of understanding, in moments of self-respect, and in moments when you choose yourself over old patterns. Each insight you gain loosens the emotional grip a little more. You don't heal by erasing the memories. You heal by changing what those memories mean. And when you do that, the person who once felt impossible to forget slowly loses their power over your mind, your emotions, and your future.